When I started to understand cryptocurrencies, it seemed to me that this was a territory of freedom, independent of traditional financial systems. But the more I delved into this topic, the clearer it became. Large financial institutions are not going to stand aside. They are slowly but surely seizing control of the crypto market, and they are doing it solely in their own interests. The simple truth is that giants like JP Morgan and Bank of America have always been masters of market manipulation. Why should cryptocurrencies be an exception? They don't just participate in the game, they write its rules. These banks have enormous financial power and knowledge that allows them to manage markets the way they want. And when they enter the crypto space, it is no longer a market where people can trade freely. This is a market that they control, and we are already seeing the consequences of this. I've always known that players like JP Morgan are able to manipulate asset prices, whether it's gold, oil, or stocks. Cryptocurrencies are no exception. Imagine that they have the opportunity to buy a huge amount of bitcoins or other cryptocurrencies, raising their value, and then sell sharply, causing prices to fall. As a result, small investors like me or you are the losers. We cannot react so quickly to these changes. We do not have their resources and do not have access to insider information that allows them to plan their actions in advance. What worries me most is that banks like JP Morgan and Bank of America are completely indifferent to the losses that ordinary people can suffer. They act solely in their own interests. Their goal is maximum profit, and they will stop at nothing to achieve it. At first glance, it may seem that their participation in the crypto market is a sign that the cryptocurrency is becoming more mature and stable. But it's really just a mask. When I look at how they start manipulating cryptocurrencies, it becomes clear to me this is just the beginning. As soon as they completely seize control, the cryptocurrency market will cease to be what it was intended to be, a decentralized and free system. We will once again find ourselves under the control of the very major players that the cryptocurrency was supposed to rid us of. Thus, large banks use their huge resources to dominate the market and manage it to their advantage, leaving us ordinary investors with no chance of fair play. When I first started to get interested in cryptocurrencies, the main idea of Bitcoin was freedom. It was an alternative to the traditional financial system, where big banks and institutions like BNY Mellon could not interfere in the process. Bitcoin was conceived as a decentralized currency that does not depend on central banks, governments, or other major players. But now, looking back at what is happening, I see how large financial giants have begun to actively penetrate the cryptocurrency space, changing its essence. One of the clearest examples of this is the situation when institutions such as BNY Mellon now offer Bitcoin storage services. It's a little scary, to be honest. After all, just 10 years ago, if someone had said that such huge traditional banks would store Bitcoins, most supporters of the cryptocurrency would have considered it a betrayal. It would be something like if a wolf were put to guard a flock of sheep. After all, the purpose of Bitcoin was to be outside the control of such organizations. However, now everything has been turned upside down. Many are even glad that major players are starting to participate in the crypto space. This supposedly signals that the cryptocurrency is becoming mainstream, that it is finally recognized by large financial institutions. But for me, this is a worrying sign. Why? Because when players like BNY Mellon take on the role of Bitcoin custodians, it no longer looks like something independent and decentralized. They control this process, and who knows how they can use it to their advantage. If you look deeper, then all this begins to resemble the same system that we tried to get away from with the help of cryptocurrencies. Instead of people managing their assets themselves, they are again entrusting them to big banks, relying on these banks to be honest. But can we count on it? These banks have their own interests, and they will probably seek to use Bitcoin the same way they use any other financial assets, for their own benefit. And there is a great danger in this. Bitcoin, which was conceived as a digital gold, free from control, can become another tool in the hands of large financial players. Yes, they will help ensure its safety, offer reliable storage services, but it will no longer be the cryptocurrency that we knew. When it comes to regulating cryptocurrencies, one of the key figures is the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission, SEC. They decide how and what rules will be applied to crypto assets, and how these rules affect market participants. However, the more I study the situation, the more I begin to doubt that the SEC is really working to protect all investors, not just the big players. One of the most striking examples is the situation with Rule SA 121. This rule regulates how financial institutions should account for crypto assets on their balance sheets. In theory, its purpose is to protect investors and ensure transparency. But in practice, everything looks very different. The SEC seems to apply this rule very selectively, allowing some large companies to circumvent it, while others must strictly follow the letter of the law. This raises many questions about the integrity and transparency of the process. If some players in the market are allowed to circumvent the rules while others are not, this clearly creates unequal conditions for competition. This is especially noticeable when it comes to large financial institutions, which seem to be getting the green light from the SEC for many actions that are not available to ordinary players. As a result, this only increases the concentration of power in the hands of large companies, which contradicts the very spirit of decentralization of cryptocurrencies. I am particularly alarmed by the fact that many SEC decisions are made behind closed doors in the format of agreements with individual market participants. It reminds me of backstage deals where big players get special privileges. For example, one bank may receive a no objection from the SEC to not comply with SA 121, while another may not. This creates a situation where those who have access to these behind-the-scenes solutions gain a significant advantage over other market participants. Such behavior by regulators not only undermines trust in cryptocurrencies, but also calls into question the integrity of the entire system. If the largest companies can receive concessions, this leads to an increase in their influence and concentration of the market in their hands. Small companies and ordinary investors who cannot afford such arrangements find themselves at a disadvantage. As a result, instead of contributing to the development of cryptocurrencies as an independent and decentralized system, the SEC, in fact, helps major players strengthen their positions. Instead of creating equal conditions for everyone, the regulator actually supports the increased concentration of power in the hands of a few companies, which only increases the risks for small market participants. I believe that the SEC should reconsider its approach to regulating cryptocurrencies. If they really want to protect the interests of all investors, not just the big players, they need to implement more transparent and equal rules that will apply to everyone without exception. Otherwise, the crypto market risks turning into another arena for manipulation and backstage transactions, where ordinary investors will be left out. When I found out that BlackRock, one of the world's largest investment funds, decided to enter the Bitcoin market through its ETFs, exchange-traded investment funds, it did not surprise me. This is a huge player, and his presence in the crypto market could have been predicted. But the more I delve into the essence of what is happening, the clearer it becomes. Their participation is not as harmless as it might seem at first glance. An ETF is a tool that allows investors to invest money in assets such as Bitcoin without having to buy and store them directly. At first glance, it looks very convenient, especially for those who do not want to understand the technical aspects of cryptocurrencies. But the problem is how these funds work, and most importantly, who is behind them. BlackRock is not just a company that wants to make money on Bitcoin. This is a player with huge resources and influence, and their participation can radically change the very structure of the cryptocurrency market. One of the most disturbing moments for me was that BlackRock and other large financial institutions use so-called off-chain settlements. This means that they can conduct transactions with Bitcoin not through a public blockchain, which should be transparent and accessible to everyone, but through their own private networks and systems. As a result, such transactions become opaque to other market participants. In fact, they can make large transactions with Bitcoin without having to actually own the asset to the extent they claim. This creates huge risks for the entire system. When big players can bypass the need to prove that they really have Bitcoins, they get the opportunity to manipulate the market in their favor. It's like playing with fake cards. They can claim to have more Bitcoins than they actually do, which creates the illusion of liquidity and reliability. But if the moment suddenly comes when it is necessary to confirm their real assets, it may turn out that they simply do not exist in the amount that they declare. Such manipulations enhance the centralization of the market. Instead of the cryptocurrency remaining independent and decentralized as it was intended, it is increasingly coming under the control of large corporations such as BlackRock. This makes the market vulnerable to manipulation, where large players can control prices and create their own rules, leaving the rest of the participants, especially small investors, at a disadvantage. I am particularly concerned that this situation resembles other markets that have long been controlled by large financial institutions. We have seen this with gold, silver, oil, and other assets. Now they have reached cryptocurrencies. What was once a symbol of freedom from the banking system is now under their complete control. Thus, BlackRock's participation in the Bitcoin ETF is not just a step towards the legalization of cryptocurrency in the traditional market. This is a warning that major players can use their resources and influence for manipulation, jeopardizing the whole idea of decentralization and openness of cryptocurrencies. We must be vigilant and understand that their participation is not so much about market development as about taking control. I have long suspected that the crypto market could become the target of major players, and now my fears are beginning to come true. If earlier cryptocurrency was perceived as a way to escape from the control of banks and large financial institutions, now I see how this independent idea is being captured by those who have always been at the top of the financial world. The example of gold and silver haunts me. We all know that these markets have long been controlled by large corporations and banks. These players have been manipulating prices for decades, using their resources to control the movement of assets in their favor. And now they are doing the same with cryptocurrencies. Just as they brought down the gold and silver market, they are now seizing control of Bitcoin and other crypto assets. One of the most disturbing things about this situation is that big players like BlackRock are using their financial power and influence to maximize profits without worrying about how this will affect small investors. They literally exploit the system by creating special conditions for themselves where they can conduct transactions on their own terms without actually playing by the rules that ordinary people obey. When I see how large institutional players manipulate the market, it becomes obvious to me this is not the cryptocurrency world that was originally conceived. The whole spirit of decentralization and equal opportunity disappears when such companies seize control. They can easily move prices, manage supply and demand, and ultimately make huge profits at the expense of small investors who simply cannot compete with them. To make matters worse, small investors may not even understand what's going on. Against the background of high-profile news about how large companies such as BlackRock are entering the crypto market, many may think that this is a signal of confidence in cryptocurrencies. But this is not the case. These companies did not come to support the market or make it fair for everyone. They are here to use their resources and technology in order to seize control, circumvent the rules, and ultimately get the maximum benefit at the expense of others. This is a wake-up call for me. Cryptocurrency, which was once a symbol of freedom, is becoming a new arena for major players to play, a game in which they write the rules themselves, and small investors find themselves in a position where they simply cannot win. We have already seen this in the gold and silver markets, and now the same thing is happening with cryptocurrency. If you do not pay attention to these manipulations, the crypto market risks becoming another playground for large financial corporations. And then, the dream of a decentralized financial system, free from control, will be completely destroyed.